College football fans, we are back with your weekly episode of Saturday Showdown, and we have made it, you guys. The college football playoffs, the first year of the 12-team playoff, and we are a week away from the national championship game between Ohio State and Notre Dame. Exciting stuff, to see some of the things that have worked out in the college football playoffs this year. Before diving into the game a little bit, to kind of talk about it, how do you guys feel like this year the playoff has worked? It being in the first year, having 12 teams, we've talked about, different weeks, things that, we might tweak, change. Overall, looking at, you've got Ohio State and Notre Dame in the championship game. What are your guys' opinions on, do you think it was a success for the first year of it? And maybe what are some things you think that the committee needs to tweak for going forward?
I would say it's a success, but I would say that it was a success for a first year. But now that we know now we've seen how everything plays out. I mean, now I think they're going to have to do better, and I think people are going to expect more blowouts that happen in the first round. I don't think people really want to see that. I lost interest by halftime on all the first round games basically because it was just domination by everybody. It was, you know what I'm saying? So, and there was a lot of really good matchups. Now, obviously, like the Ohio State-Tennessee game, no one saw that coming, right? No one saw that. But like Notre Dame-Indiana, I think kind of people figured Notre Dame was probably going to run the table a little bit. I know I picked Indiana to win, but I think people kind of thought it was going to be like that. Penn State and all those guys, you kind of just saw it. You saw it coming, right? You saw the blowouts happening. I would say I don't know how they're going to fix that, but I would say if they're going to tweak anything, it probably needs to be something with the buys. I know everybody, was on a 3-week hiatus or whatever, but one team, came off a huge win, right? Teams coming off a huge win. One team sat, since their respective championship game. Yeah. I don't think people need to be sitting for almost a month. I think there needs to be something. You still need to reward those guys for winning their respective division or a conference, but I don't necessarily think that almost a month of not playing football. I think that might be a little too much because everybody who sat lost. Everybody. So.
Yeah. I thought it was. I think it's been a success. It's been fun. It's been exciting, especially the last at least 2 rounds. You had that Texas Arizona State game, and the Boise State Penn State game wasn't that bad. The only one in that round that was really like kind of a blowout was Ohio State Oregon, in my eyes. I thought it was. I think it's been a success. I do agree with Dylan on that. I think if they're going to change anything, they change how they give the buys. Just give it to the top four seeds. Like don't give it to conference champs. Don't worry about any of that stuff. And I know it'll throw up that little controversy of we've already saw it of that regular seasons don't matter. It's like no, but they still do. Like this still do. Regular season stuff still matters. Mm-hmm. If that's the case,
that would almost.
If that was the case, then Alabama would have got in this year if regular season didn't matter. So that's the only thing I could see.
Maybe move it.
That they change.
Maybe move it up. Move the timeline up so people aren't sitting that long. Like maybe give them a week, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Do it like the NFL playoffs. Yeah, give it
plenty of time.
Start the playoffs earlier. Start it. Yeah.
It's not
start the season earlier.
They just they played 13 games. It's not like they can't handle it.
Right.
I just don't agree with. I don't agree with the timeline sitting that long. I don't like that.
Well, that's how it's been in years past. You had almost a whole month or almost over a month between whoever's playing in the national championship game. Like say last year it was the Final Four. The 4 teams. They had almost a month before they played their game, like in between their last game of the season to, that first playoff game last year.
If a team's playing hot and then they sit that long, that could cool them off. Really, that's not. I'm not saying it's not fair, but at the same time, I really don't think it's necessarily fair. If a team's playing hot and they catch fire at a good time and they win, let's say, 6-7 games in a row and they make it to the playoffs and then they sit for, a month. That's not and then you cool off, and then you're not playing the same. I don't really like that. I don't know if Boise State would have beat Penn State. I still don't think they would have, but I think that game would have been a hell of a lot closer if they wouldn't have had to sit out that long. And I know both teams sat, but I'm just saying, if they wouldn't have sat that long, I think it would have been a closer game.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it kind of throws these teams out of rhythm, out of their, routine that they have going through a game week. It's for the most part probably the same routine week in, week out, getting ready for games, and then you have to change it up because you don't play for 3 weeks, and then you're having to get back into game week prep and things like that. So yeah, logistically, if they can find a way to maybe start the playoffs sooner, I think that would probably be beneficial because maybe some of these quote unquote like some of these blowout games are closer. You think maybe Oregon, Ohio State's a closer game. Georgia, Notre Dame's a closer game, but kind of an asterisk there because you're missing a starting quarterback in that game. But things like that. So, do you think they should expand upon this, keep it at 12, or maybe go 14, 16 teams?
Don't do that.
You got to keep it at 12. You can't go any further than that.
No, because then you're gonna have a bunch of blowouts, dude, and no one's gonna win the wall. It's just gonna be blowout. There's gonna be blowouts every round. They're honestly lucky that the ASU Texas game happened, because if that game didn't happen and it was just another blowout, I would say we start talking about this year as like not very successful for 12 teams, to be honest. Because every game is before that, literally every game was a dominant. People just got dominated. There wasn't a game that you're like, oh, this is close. It was like, okay, the game's over by halftime. So they're lucky for that game, and they're lucky that Notre Dame Georgia was a good game, for the most part. I mean, they're just lucky that down the stretch, some of these games got closer and got a little bit tighter, because the beginning games, that was just not it.
Yeah, it was ugly, a little ugly.
It was.
Yeah. Besides that Indiana Notre Dame game, that was a good one.
I mean, if you want to count 2 last second touchdowns, other than that, it was just complete domination on Notre Dame's front. Won't last for long, but
yeah, it's definitely for sure interesting to see how things have played out. Going forward, it'll be interesting to see, like you said, going forward, what the seeding looks like. If you don't do buys to conference champs, that kind of flips to what you were saying earlier. Is then it makes more or less conference championships don't necessarily mean as much if you're not playing for a bye. But also
you're still playing for a conference championship, though.
Yeah, if your team looking at the long run of like, would you rather have conference championship or have better luck for the playoffs? It's interesting to see how they're going to do that, because I was surprised with some of the buys, because if you think about how they did it, you had Boise State got a bye. Yep. Yes, they won their conference, but it wasn't a Power 5 conference. They got that Group of 5 bid, but you had like a team like a Clemson that won their conference championship but didn't get a bye. So, some restructuring's got to have to happen to kind of make a little bit more sense. But I think I kind of agree with what has been said before on maybe you take into account more strength of schedule when you're looking at, seeding these teams, and look more towards that regular season rankings compared to, this team that maybe was outside the top 10, sitting at, 15, 16, wins their conference championships and gets in because of that.
Right.
I think the only thing is, I think it kind of has to stay the way that it is, because then every game counts, because I just don't want – the only thing I'm worried about is if they take away the bye, or, whatever, right? They take away that incentive you get if you win, that like let's say, Saf is coaching, a team or whatever, and they go 11-0, right? And they know even if they lose the last 2 games that they're probably going to get a bid. Why wouldn't I rest every single one of my players?
I mean,
that's one thing I don't want to see, is I don't want to see kind of what happens in the NFL. I don't want to see someone just rest every single person, and then you get less exciting games or whatever. It almost makes that regular season, not matter as much.
Right.
And you're just like, well, I've won 11 in a row. I'm probably guaranteed some sort of a spot. I'm just going to not play anybody so no one gets hurt and we're fresh. Kind of like what the Chiefs did. They didn't play a single person, and I didn't really like that. I mean,
you read my mind there. That was the example I was going to say is you see the Chiefs arrest everybody, and then they get Denver wins 38-0. Sure, that helps them make the playoffs,
and the Bengals don't get in. The Bengals get shunned because of it because the Broncos played a Chiefs team that didn't start a single person.
Yeah,
that's the one thing I do. That's the one thing I don't want to see. I mean, credit to you if you're going to do it that way. I mean, whatever, but I just don't want to see that. So you got to have some sort of incentive. That way, people keep playing and fighting every game to try to get to that conference championship, so they can get that incentive, whether it's a 1 week bye or whatever. But I agree with Sav. I think they should do it like the NFL playoffs. That's kind of how I think they should run it if you're gonna do it like this.
Yeah,
not have that long wait time or anything.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but just if you look at a playoff system like this with getting the automatic bid as conference champions, then you have to play a full conference schedule. You should play a full conference schedule if your conference is full. You shouldn't have not to throw any shade at Alabama or anything like that. It's not even just them. That's like Ohio State playing Ohio. Like, is that really necessary? Is playing Mercer week 13 of the season really necessary? Like, is that really going to help your case of getting in the playoffs when you could be like, hey, like maybe we should like schedule another Power 5 school or Power 4 school instead of Mercer to make our strength of schedule. If that's the case, if we make the strength of schedule a big deal, then that's what's going to have to be done. We all know the SEC has enough teams to play a full conference schedule from start of the season to the end of the season.
Yeah,
it could be done. Same with the Big Ten with these big conferences, the mega conferences. Now it can happen.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm sure they're going to have some sort of big changes. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of changes coming to the next year's 12-team playoff. I'm sure they'll take away something, or they'll add something, or they'll do something else to switch it up. I think the next few years, I think we all know, is kind of just going to be like a mix and match, like what works, what doesn't, and then maybe in a few years they'll have it all pieced together. So
let's just make it October Madness or November Madness, December Madness, and do like basketball does, just 64 teams going at it.
Oh God,
give me the University of California, Malibu Beach to just roll through the college football playoffs.
Please stop.
Oh, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see going forward what they do. Like Dylan said, they'll probably tweak some things, and then this doesn't work, scrap that and try something else. So going forward, these next 2 to 3 years, what they do with these playoffs is going to be interesting to see how it evolves over time. Before we jump into some round 2 recaps, a couple of notable, college news, transfer portal news. Carson Beck, starting quarterback for Georgia, is now transferring to Miami to the ACC. Injured his UCL in the SEC championship game against Texas, which forces Gunnar Stockton into starting the college football playoff game against Notre Dame. But, I think that's maybe surprised a lot of people to see him just up and transfer out. A lot of people thought probably prior to the season they were going to have a great year and he was going to go to the NFL. I'm sure after the season he's had, Dylan and I talked about it, about midway through, he started performing very badly. And I'm sure his draft stock probably just plummeted. And his agents or probably some people close to him was like, hey, you might need to, come back to school another year and perform a little bit better. And I mean, great choice going to a little bit easier conference in the ACC where you don't have, your top teams, you're looking at Clemson, Miami,
Pitt,
maybe SMU. I mean, you don't have as tough as a schedule as like what a Georgia would play in Alabama, playing, Texas, all these SEC teams. But what do you think for him next year that looks like in the ACC and replacing a Cam Ward that kind of just blew statistics out of the water this year?
I mean, two things happened here. One, either something happened between him and Kirby Smart and it didn't sit well and he left, or if I had to guess, he played so poorly this year at Georgia, he went to an easier conference to bump his draft stock up. I'm being serious.
I know.
That's really what I think. That's really what I think it is. And I'm not saying the ACC is easy, but compared to the SEC, yeah it's significantly easier. Like significantly. He's going to be an all-star there, I would imagine. He's going to be a star quarterback. I don't know if he'll have Cam Ward numbers, but he's probably going to have some pretty decent numbers, dude. He'll probably throw for over 3,000 yards. He'll probably have 25, 30 touchdowns. He'll look good. He'll bump his draft stock up. I don't know what to think of it. I kind of hope he just gets absolutely pelted there. I really do. I hope he just gets absolutely pelted there. But I don't know. I think it's, if I'm an NFL coach and I'm looking at that worries me that you would leave a team like Georgia and go to a team like Miami. Nothing against them, but Miami is not at Georgia. They're not good every year, right? That would worry me. And I don't want to hear it's because Gunnar Stockton is better than you. You were the starting quarterback for a reason. He wasn't. So obviously that's not the case. And I don't want to hear, well, my injury. I don't want to hear none of that. I think he went there, in my eyes, I think he went there to make it easier on himself, to help his draft stock up. That's what he's worried about. I get that. But I don't think that looks very good, leaving a school like Georgia as a starting quarterback, leaving, especially when you had a really bad year, and going to a conference that is significantly easier, where you're going to play significantly easier teams. It's a significantly easier path to the college football playoffs for you with the teams that you're playing. I don't think that's a good look. I don't like it, but kudos to the guy.
Well, you think about it too, some of the statements he had, like, there was that one press conference where, they're talking to him about, watching some games and stuff. And he's like, yeah, I don't really like to watch football. It's not enjoyable for me because I'm going to sit there and start analyzing, well, why did this defense do that? Or why did they drop to this coverage on this play and things like that? But I mean, that's what your job as a quarterback is. If you can get any scouting on the other team your off week. Yeah. I mean, there's ways to analyze and watch film, but also still enjoy it. So that, that maybe comment didn't sit well with people. And then also it came out over the past few days. He is dating a basketball player at the University of Miami as well.
Yeah.
And, apparently they're saying they caused some locker room issues at Georgia. Some of the quote unquote antics, that had went on this season. Don't know what exactly they're specifically referring to, but those are some other things to maybe take into account as well.
He's also the same dude that threw 12 interceptions in 6 games too. Alabama, Auburn, Mississippi State, Texas, Florida, and Ole Miss. And 6 games, he threw all the interceptions he had all year, and he did it in 6 games. So I don't know, Saf. What do you think?
I don't think it's a bad thing. Because I swear he said he's going to the draft, right? I'm almost.
No, okay. There was a bunch of reports at some point in time he declared for the draft.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
I thought I wasn't seeing things when I saw it. I was like, oh yeah, he's transferring to Miami now. I'm like, I thought he was going to the draft. Like I thought this was. So at some point, somewhere, somebody told him NFL scout wise, like, hey, don't do it. Like,
what is it? The quote unquote advisory committee that kind of gives these guys grades and tell them, hey, maybe you should go back to school or things like that.
Don't. You don't need to leave yet. Go play one more year. I think he'll have numbers like you see Kyle McCord had in Syracuse. Those type of numbers, the Cade Klubnik kind of scores or stats and everything. It'll be on that order. It won't be anything near Cam Ward. But it's going to give Miami another opportunity to win the ACC and get a shot at winning the national championship.
Yeah, I mean, he threw 28 touchdowns this year at Georgia.
Yeah,
if you can throw 28 touchdowns in the SEC, I mean, I'm gonna say you can at least throw 35 in the ACC. That's just me.
You should be able to.
All right.
Yeah. I don't know. You got Bill Belichick and the UNC Tar Heels on the hunt now.
I do agree with you though. I think his manager probably told him like after he declared for the draft. I'm sure his manager went and talked to some people, right, and kind of got a heads up like maybe where he was going to land at, and he's probably like, hey, Carson, you should probably
now's not the time.
Play another year, dude, because there are some significantly better players in this draft than you right now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you got to think probably because of who he is and where he was at. he probably got himself a nice NIL check as well.
Oh, yeah.
Heading down to the ACC.
I guarantee
it was like what, $1 million or something. Like, it was a lot.
Yeah. And you can't forget. Who knows? Maybe Florida State has a heroic comeback this season after their terrible season this year. They decided to hop on the Gus bus as far as their offense. So, and then a couple other notes of news. Both running backs for Penn State decided they are going to return for another season. Both guys having over 1,000 yards rushing this year, along with Drew Aller saying he's coming back for his senior year. So, some of their key players they are running it back, hoping to, make another run next year.
How'd that work out for him?
How significant is it that all three of those guys are coming back? You're going to lose some guys like Warren, of course. I mean, after the year he's had, he's going to go get drafted easily. But I think they've got to find some maybe upgraded receivers, because if you watched this previous game against Notre Dame, 0 completions to wide receivers, all running backs and tight ends. So
I wouldn't say it's all the receivers' fault, though, because Drew Aller, he was horrific, and he made the worst decisions, and he made the worst turnover possible, and the biggest game of his freaking life, and he throws an interception just to seal the game. I would say a lot of – I'm not going to say it's all his fault, but I'm going to put about 90% of that blame on Drew Aller. He did not play well, and that's kind of been the story of his life. In big games, he just does not play well. I'm happy for Penn State. It's nice to keep competition in the Big Ten. I always like when we play Penn State. They're always a good team, but he just does not play well. He doesn't. I feel bad. I feel bad for the dude, because I thought they had a really good chance to win that game.
Yeah.
And they're running Singleton. All those guys did everything they possibly could. Penn State's defense, I thought, played really well for the most part. I mean, but he did not play well. The fact that you're a game away from the national championship and you can't complete a single pass to a wide receiver, a single one, is outrageous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, now that you mentioned, we'll go ahead and jump over to this game. Notre Dame beats them 27-24 on a last-minute field goal by Notre Dame. But, like you're talking about, you look at the performances here on Penn State side, Drew Aller, 12 of 23, so you're about 50% on your completion rate. You throw only for 135 yards and 1 interception.
Yeah.
Not great play there. Like you said, Singleton carrying this team on his shoulders, rushing for 84 yards and 3 touchdowns. He scores all 3 touchdowns for Penn State. Katron Allen, 19 carries, 82 yards. So both these guys having 80 yards, nearly 100. But those receiving numbers we were talking about, Tyler Warren, tight end, 6 catches, 75 yards. Nick Singleton, the running back, 2 catches, 33 yards. You've got Khalil Dinkins, 2 catches, 21 yards. Luke Reynolds, another tight end, 1 catch, 7 yards. Katron Allen, another running back, 1 catch, 6 yards. So it's, I don't know. Some game planning.
Who's the white elephant in the room? Who was the worst player on that field? Drew Aller.
Yeah.
Was he, though?
Yes. 135 yards, an interception, and 50% completion, and you didn't throw a single pass to your wide receiver. Couldn't complete 1 pass to a wide receiver.
Yeah.
It's not good, dude. And I like it. He's talented. He has all the skill sets to be a really good quarterback. In those big games, I don't care what you do all season long. You can go the Big Ten. They play a lot of teams where those teams are terrible.
Yeah.
You want to go throw 5 touchdowns against Purdue? Congratulations, buddy. That's not very good. And the same thing with Ohio. It's not just him. It's any of these teams like Ohio State. You want to congratulations, Will Howard. Do you want praise for throwing 3 touchdowns on these? That's not impressive. What shows them what is impressive is when you play the big teams, even if you lose, how was your performance? Will Howard, when he played Oregon the first time, he was mid. He made a lot of mistakes against Oregon the first time. I'm not saying he played bad, but he didn't play great either. Yeah. Right? Played Michigan, played terrible. did not play well. Played Penn State, played good. Played Oregon, and the playoffs, he plays great. Biggest game of your life. One game away from a national championship. You guys match up great. You couldn't have asked for a better matchup. I mean, these two teams were exactly alike. And I think offensively, I thought Penn State had the upper hand.
They did.
I thought they were more talented offensively.
Yeah.
And I thought their defense was probably decent enough to keep Riley Leonard held down. And it seemed like they would do it. And the offense couldn't get going. 50% completion, 135 yards, and an interception. No touchdowns, no scores for you, and not a single pass was completed to a wide receiver on your team. Yeah. You're 100% the issue. 100% you were the issue.
Yeah. That's where I think that like how do you, I mean, I don't understand as even as a college team, you don't have a reception to a receiver throughout a whole game.
It's like you don't have an alpha guy that is, going to step up.
It just doesn't make any sense. And you look at the stat sheet, and you just I understand Tyler Warren's a monster of a tight end. He's a monster of an athlete. He's going to have success should have success in the NFL. Reminds me a lot of George Kittle, to be honest.
He's a big dude, good hands, fast,
yeah, big, strong, yeah. But you can't be one dimensional. I mean, you can't be one dimensional. You can't rely on your defense so much. And that's what they did. I mean, they, like you said, Dylan, they had not just a game that they could have won to go to the national championship, but they had probably up and down the easiest chunk of a bracket.
Yes.
To go through.
SMU, Boise State, Notre Dame. I'm not saying Notre Dame's easy, but I mean, you literally had the easiest path to a national championship.
Yeah. So,
yeah. I mean, just to put that in perspective, you look at it.
Yeah.
Tyler Warren was their leading receiver on the season with 104 receptions for 1,233 yards. Their next leading receiver that was actual wide receiver, 46 receptions, 60 catches difference, and he had 500 yards difference in receiving yards. That's the gap between Tyler Warren and Harrison Wallace III, who was their top true wide receiver at the position.
But is that a skill gap? Because Tyler Warren's, I'm not saying he's not good. Tyler Warren is probably the best tight end in football right now. Dude's crazy. But is that a skill gap because Drew Aller trusts Warren more than anybody else? So he's not willing, you know what I'm saying? Are the wide receivers on their team that bad? I mean, I would imagine if you're a starting wide receiver for Penn State, you can't be terrible.
Right.
So, I mean, is this a Drew Aller problem? Is this they don't have a wide receiver problem? There were so many questions in that game against Notre Dame I have. On that last drive, when you're trying to drive to win the game and Drew Aller throws that interception, to lose the game and Notre Dame kicks a field goal, why are you throwing the ball? The kid can't throw the ball all game. You're literally dominating the run game. Nick Singleton has 3 touchdowns. Why are you still trying to throw the football?
Yeah,
I don't understand. There's a lot of issues that I have. Was it the play calling that was making Drew Aller so bad? Is it just him not being able to play well in another big game? Is it the mix of both? I mean, who's calling the plays over there? Is it James Franklin? Do they have an offensive coordinator? I don't know if they have an offensive coordinator or not. I don't know. I don't know if James Franklin is calling the plays.
I think so.
So I don't know. All I know is that game, they could have won that game 100 times over because they had stopped Notre Dame so many times. And honestly, Notre Dame got a lucky few plays off. Like that touchdown pass, that 54-yard touchdown pass or whatever it was. Notre Dame doesn't blow that coverage. They probably won the game, to be honest. They're just – the defense was on the field a lot, and the offense was not. So
yeah. You see, you can't rely on your defenses, no matter how good it is. I know defenses win championships, but you still have to score.
Well, and here's one thing to consider too. Penn State just lost their defensive coordinator. He's going to Clemson.
For sure. I thought I hadn't seen it was like for sure yet. I thought it was just like they're trying to.
That probably stings.
Yeah.
Bit.
I mean, with how good their defense was this year.
I saw that they're just trying to trying to pry him away from Penn State, but there wasn't anything official. I don't know. Maybe the things have changed in the last hour or 2
hours ago. This article is talking about that he was removed from the staff directory
Yeah, he's gone.
According to,
Jeez.
I don't know how legitimate this source is, statecollege.com, but then 24/7 Sports also reports that he's leaving for Clemson. So
yeah, he's gone.
It seems almost like a done deal, but if that is 100% what happens, that's a blow to this Penn State team that had a great defense. You keep this game close the entire game, and I feel like they probably had one of the better defenses on the season. But so now you return some of these offensive guys, but now you're having to replace your defensive coordinator is what was kind of got you here, if you will.
Yeah.
It's
going to be tough to replace a guy like that to just have a defense as good as their defense was this year. It's not going to be an easy task for James Franklin and Penn State to recover from that.
Yeah,
because there's not that many. I mean, defense isn't the easiest thing in the world to do anymore with the way college football playbooks are. I mean, they change so much so quickly that you don't know. And with the amount, like with the way kids jump around, from school to school and whatnot anymore, you'd be like, oh, we played these guys last year. They weren't, it wasn't too bad. It's pretty simple offense, this and that, whatnot. It could change with one guy.
Completely different personnel.
Yeah. It could change that quickly.
Because, if you want to just highlight that real quick, looking at it, look at what their defense did to Notre Dame. They forced Riley Leonard. He threw 2 interceptions in this game. He threw for 223 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Held Jeremiah Love to 45 yards rushing. Riley Leonard only had 35 yards rushing. Granted, they both had a touchdown. But, they did great in limiting these guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's going to be a loss that, like you guys said, it's going to be hard to replace there. And James Franklin's got a task where he's going to have to find the right guy that can come in and hopefully replicate the success.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
We'll jump over to the other game of the weekend. Dylan's Ohio State Buckeyes taking care of Texas 28-14. This game was one to watch. Ohio State continued, to roll and be hot like we've seen them these past few rounds. I kind of talked about it. I was on the side of I thought Texas maybe should have went to Arch Manning after halftime. Looking at what he did. You saw Arch come in for one singular play where he rushed it for a first down on a 4th down play right before half.
The dude smacked his head off the ground and got a concussion. But
fair. And you look at it though, Quinn Ewers, that's what we talked about was kind of at least for me, was my X factor in this game was which Quinn Ewers do you get? Do you get the one that we saw early in the season perform well, or do you get the one that has been okay during the season after that oblique injury?
Yeah.
And I think you saw your answer in this game. He did throw for 283 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. But late in the game, when you have the chance to tie this game up, you get sacked. And his former roommate at Ohio State scoops and scores, a big touchdown to put Ohio State up by 2 touchdowns. Can't be a good feeling for Quinn Ewers.
No, I didn't think he played that awful. I thought he played decent. It wasn't enough to win the game. And why you call a dang like sweep at a 4th and goal, 3rd and goal situation like that makes no. You gave it away as soon as you put the one guy in motion. You saw all the Ohio State. They were Ohio State defense flowing to where the ball was going before the ball was even snapped. They knew exactly what that play was, where it was going, how it was going. What they should have done is they should have booted Quinn Ewers to the backside of it and pulled the whole Peyton Manning deal like he did with the Broncos against the Cowboys, and you would have fooled everybody. That would have been fun to see. But I don't think he did all. 283 yards against the Ohio State defense that played fairly well.
It was the number 1 defense in college football this year so far.
And that's pretty solid number. it wasn't great. They lost. Who they had one of their receivers out, didn't they? Somebody got hurt pretty early in the game.
Matthew
Blue
Golden, yeah,
or
he was
Golden?
held to. Yeah, Golden. He got because they have Golden and Bolden. That's not confusing at all. But yeah, Matthew Golden went down early. He finished the game with only 2 catches for 51 yards. Left early in the first half, came back in that second half, tried to give it a go. On the rushing side of the ball, Quintravion Wisner, 17 carries, 46 yards. Jaden Blue, 4 carries for 16 yards. On the receiving end, Jaden Blue, 5 catches for 59 yards and both touchdowns for Texas. And he actually, I believe it was yesterday or today, declared he was going to go ahead and forego his 2 years of eligibility and declare for the draft. But
so did Golden.
Golden, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you see those guys leaving. You got a young receiver in Ryan Wingo that was kind of held in check this game. He had been one of their kind of star younger guys. 1 catch, 22 yards. And so, yeah, this Ohio State defense continued to do what they did all season. And like you said, Ewers didn't play terribly. 283 yards, 2 touchdowns against this Ohio State defense is great. But, when it comes down to it, like you said, some of the decision-making right there towards the end of the game, just not great. Sark, I guess, thinking he was going to try to fool some guys, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
On the Ohio State side, Will Howard, 24 of 33, 289 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Travion Henderson rushed 6 times, 42 yards. Quinshon Judkins, 9 carries for 36 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. And then you had Travion Henderson take a screen, 75 yards to the house as well. I mean, they were just out there having fun.
Yeah, they were. We were starting off hot too. I mean, we picked up right where we left off out of the Oregon game. We were starting off hot and scored right away. We had the ball back. It looked like we were driving up the field. It looked like it was going to be about 14-0 right off the rip. And Henderson had that penalty where he shoved that guy in the face and it moved us back. And then after that, we kind of lost momentum. And you saw a different Ohio State team. We definitely lost all the momentum we had built up all this time. It was gone like that.
Yep.
We started playing really bad, not playing well. Like Will Howard, he was making. I was on the edge of my seat. He was making some questionable throws into some crowded Texas defense. It was working out for him, but half a second earlier, half a second later, you're talking instead of 1 interception, you're talking 2, 3, maybe even 4. I mean, he was making some tight throws and some tight windows, but they were slowing these passes down, and you were like, oh God, it's right over people's fingertips, through a couple defenders. He did have 1 really bad interception. He knew it as soon as he threw it. I knew it as soon as he threw it. It was just a terrible throw. He was making some questionable throws, but the thing I liked about Ohio State is whenever Texas started to swing momentum in their way, we found ways to counter that and take it away from them, like Henderson. I mean, right before halftime, literally 75-yard touchdown screen pass all the way up the sideline. That took away all the momentum Texas had built up.
Yeah.
But our defense is what kept us in the game. That's what won us the game. I thought our offense played well enough to win a football game, but our defense is what did it. They had 4 sacks on the day. They pressured Quinn Ewers all game long. They made him super uncomfortable. The fact that he threw for 283 yards and 2 touchdowns is incredible because we were all in his face. We did not let him breathe. We did not let him have a second of time to himself whatsoever. And then Jack Sawyer, I mean, what a better picture perfect ending. Former roommate together at Ohio State and absolutely pelts Quinn Ewers, and the ball pops right in his hands as he's running, and takes it all the way to the house, for the win. So
I turned my TV off when I saw that happen. I said, that's over.
Yeah, there was no coming back after that. It was a great game. Ohio State continues their domination of every team they play.
Yeah,
and then playoffs. A 14-point win. It was a hard 14-point win, but it was, I mean, I didn't see them winning by 14 points over Texas. So they played well. I think their offense has to play a little better, even against Notre Dame. I don't think we can play like that, making questionable plays, because Notre Dame has a very good defense, and they will make you pay if you mess up. They're going to make you pay for it. So
yeah,
I do want to say, props to Texas's defense though. Jeremiah Smith, 1 catch for 3 yards. Props to them for the game plan of shutting the main guy down and make it be the Carnell Tate show. 7 receptions for 87 yards. So
that's what happens when you have when you're the best team in college football and you have literally 5-star recruits at every position.
Yeah,
one person gets shut down. You have another top star receiver and Tate. You have those running backs in Henderson, Ibuka. You have your tight end Scott. I mean, he doesn't get used much, but you have plenty of people to help you if one person gets shut down. That's why it's very hard to stop Ohio State's offense. Is we literally just have people in every position. So people worry about covering Jeremiah Smith, but you also have to worry about the Tates and the Ibukas and the Scotts and the Henderson and the Judkins. There are so many people you have to worry about at one time.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought they did a good job. I noticed that right away. Like after the game, I was like, you know what? I didn't hear Jeremiah Smith's name a lot tonight. And it's for a reason, obviously. I mean, that was part of their defensive game plan, was to get him out of any ball situation as much as possible. But when you got, G. Scott, the junior, with 5 receptions, 30 yards, you had Mbuka 5 receptions, 51 yards, and he had a spectacular catch there across the middle too, that I don't know how that ball did not get intercepted.
It went through like literally 2 people and it fit in a hole about that big. Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Perfect. And I saw that, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, that's picked. Like there's no way. Just right there. And they had another one right over the top of the Texas defender's hands too.
He took his fingertips.
Yeah. Like it just at the beginning of that game, it didn't seem like things were going Texas's way. And you're like, okay, this is it's going to be one of those things. And you had that penalty by Henderson that just swapped the momentum. But my one big thing that I saw is that Texas scored their 14 points on literally the same exact play by Blue out of the backfield.
A wheel route to the left side, wide open every time, untouched, unscathed.
Yeah, touchdown, easy. Just whoop, touchdown. Anybody could have made that. Anybody could have made that though. So that's the only thing that I think is going to hurt Ohio State when it comes to Notre Dame, because Notre Dame's a very particular team. They're going to pick out your flaws, every single little itty bitty one that they can find, and they're going to use them against you. We've seen it multiple times already this season against teams. And just because Ohio State's a more talented team doesn't mean they're gonna egg wash this whole thing. I think this is gonna be a closer game than we think.
100% not gonna. It's not going to be. It's not gonna be.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, so that being said, we'll jump to this national championship game that's going to be in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Enclosed dome environment for this championship game. 6:30 kickoff next Monday. Ohio State comes in as the 9.5-point favorite in this game with an over/under of 46.5. So you're looking at roughly 20 points on both sides. They're expecting there, give or take. But yeah, I mean, we just talked about it. The story of Notre Dame is their defense. That's been their strong suit for the most of the season. They had that early season loss to NIU, bounced back, reeled off, not losing a game the rest of the season, and worked their way back up into the rankings, into the playoffs. Ohio State 13-2. Loses early in the season to Oregon, completely flips that game in that second round, and the other loss being to Michigan. But I'm interested to see how this Ohio State offense with all these playmakers match up against this Notre Dame defense that on the defensive side of the ball has a lot of playmakers itself. I mean, your initial thoughts there on, since that's what's carried Notre Dame, and they've found ways to get the wins. Like you look at Riley Leonard, 19 touchdowns to 8 interceptions on the season. So, not fantastic numbers there. Relies on his legs a lot. Jeremiah Love, their leading running back, 17 touchdowns on the season with close to 1,200 yards. If you're either one of these teams, what are you looking at going into this game?
What's that?
If I'm Notre Dame, I am doing the same exact thing Texas did, and our game plan is to stop Jeremiah Smith. Don't let him downfield.
Good luck.
None of that stuff, and you have to stop the little two-headed monster of Henderson and Judkins, because that would be the other thing that I would look at. Is like, hey, we gotta, if we can stop those three guys, keep putting pressure on Will Howard like they did against Drew Aller, the last week. I think this Notre Dame team can do, and they can't turn the ball over. That'll be the other thing. You saw the 3 turnovers from Texas. Oregon had several of them too, if I remember right. And then it's just you can't have those kind of turnovers at this point of the season, because they're game changers. So if you're Notre Dame, you got to stop Trip. You got to stop the running backs. You got to put pressure on Will Howard, and because he can run the ball too. He's not scared to run the ball. He'll drop his shoulder into somebody if he needs to, which is fun but scary if you're an Ohio State fan at the same time. If you're Ohio State, you got to do basically what you just did to Texas. Literally the same, almost the same exact thing. They're very similar. They have a really good run game. They have decent receivers. They have a quarterback though who can get outside the pocket and hurt you, on the ground game just as much as their running back. Love can, which he's coming back from that shoulder injury, so he's getting healthier as the playoffs are going on, which is scary for a lot of teams.
Okay. So just to put a comparison, whenever Penn State played Notre Dame, I would say those teams are pretty evenly matched.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Penn State probably had the edge on offense. I would say Notre Dame probably had the edge on defense.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say defensively, they were almost the same. Like I said, I think Notre Dame's still better than them. And offensively, I thought productive-wise, probably close to the same, but I think Penn State probably had the upper hand. So last time we played, when we played Penn State, Will Howard, 16-24, 182 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Mm-hmm.
Judkins, 14 carries, 95 yards. Henderson, 10 carries, 54 yards. So, and we controlled the ball basically all game. Riley Leonard is not talented enough to play against Ohio State's defense all game long. I honestly don't believe that. If it wasn't for Penn State blowing some coverages, like the 54-yard touchdown pass, you wipe that play away. Riley Leonard has no touchdown passes and 2 interceptions. Yeah. You do that against Penn State or you do that against Ohio State, that is not going to work out. Yeah. I know he can use his feet, but he's not the fastest runner. He just rolls outside the pocket. But we've played 3 teams where their quarterbacks can roll outside the pocket. And do you know what we've done 3 times? It's eliminated that. We eliminated Tennessee from rolling out of the pocket. We eliminated Dylan Gabriel from rolling out of the pocket. And we eliminated Quentin Ewers from rolling out of the pocket. I'm not saying Quentin Ewers is a run-all-the-time quarterback, but Dylan Gabriel can use his legs quite a bit. Yeah. And Nico from Tennessee can use his legs quite a bit. We eliminated those things completely. We eliminated the run game, and I think that's really all. No offense to Notre Dame fans, but I think that's really all they have. I'm not saying their wide receivers are terrible, but I'm not going to say I think Love is probably the most predominant player on their team. I don't see him putting up 180 yards and 3 touchdowns on Ohio State here. I think Ohio State just has too much talent-wise, offensively and defensively, for Notre Dame to keep up for 4 quarters of football. I just don't see it happen, and that's just not me. I'm not trying to sit here and say and say all that because I'm an Ohio State fan. I just think talent-wise they don't have enough to keep up. I really don't. We know one thing. Will Howard, he's averaging a 73. He's completing 73% of his passes all year long. All right, so he's very accurate. He doesn't make a bunch of mistakes. Right, we have a 2-headed monster. We have Tate, we have Scott, we have Jeremiah Smith, we have Ibuka. Like we have 4 star, 1 star-studded tight end, 3 star-studded receivers, 2 star-studded running backs.
Yeah.
I don't see Notre Dame. I don't. Or Texas couldn't even do it. So they could stop Smith. They couldn't stop anybody else. I don't foresee seeing Notre Dame going to be able to do the same thing. It's just not going to happen. So I don't think offensively they're better than us. I think we're significantly better than them offensively. I think defensively, I think we're better than them. I'm not going to say significantly because I think Notre Dame had the second best defense in college football behind us. So I just think it's too much. I'll take the 10 points. I think we win by at least 10. That's just me. I think we win by 14. I'm saying it right now. I think it's a 2-touchdown win. I just think it's too much. I really do. I just think it's too much for Notre Dame. I don't think they're ready for it. I don't think Riley Leonard's going to be able to score. If we put up 30 points, you're going to tell me that Notre Dame has the offense to keep up with Ohio State? I don't see that. I just don't. I just don't see it happening.
I don't know if
just
that's
put it in perspective. You look at the receiving, stats for Notre Dame. They don't have a single wide receiver over 500 yards receiving on the season.
Yeah.
So, very much run first, run heavy offense that basically throws it when they need to. The guy that's been hot for them late in the season is Jordan Faison, but that's been the guy for them. And so, like you said, Dylan, you look at it on paper, their offense not anywhere close to what Ohio State has.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at almost match for match on the defensive side of the ball. It's going to be an interesting game.
But I will say, I've said it. I got to keep the theme going. I just can't talk all good about Ohio State. I can't just talk all good about it. So I will say, just to keep, just to keep it rolling like how I have been, and we've been winning. All right, we can't underestimate Notre Dame, right? Because their defense can definitely get the best of you, especially if you make some mistakes. I don't think their offense is going to be able to capitalize on every mistake that you make, but their defense is very capable of making you make mistakes. Right? They have one of the best defenses in college football. So you can't underestimate them. And we've seen what happens when you do underestimate them. I don't think Penn State underestimated them. I think Penn State knew how good Notre Dame was.
I think Georgia did.
But I think Georgia did. I don't think that they thought a team that's not even in a conference was going to come in here and do the amount of damage that they did, especially defensively. I don't think Kirby Smart was like, yeah, their defense is going to stop us all game long. Well, they did. I mean, they literally did. And they made turnovers, and they made you pay for it, and they were able to hold you guys down. They were able to, 3 and outs constantly. So you can't underestimate them. And as long as we keep Riley Leonard in check, we'll be okay. He's the type of guy that if you're not on him all game long, you can't just be on him for 3 quarters of football. You have to be on him for 4 quarters of football. If you're not on him all game long, you saw what he did against Georgia. They would lighten up a little bit, and what would he do? He'd run for a first down and then just keep running time off the clock. Run for another first down. Keep running time off the clock. He didn't really score any touchdowns as far as rushing, but he will eat the clock. And if you're not watching him, he's definitely got the speed enough to run 10 yards and get a first down every single time.
Yep.
So, and he does like running the football, and he's very good at holding on to the ball. He does not fumble, does not do anything. So Ohio State cannot go into this game and do what Georgia did and underestimate these guys and think because Riley Leonard doesn't throw a football, he's not going to be able to run against us. If Riley Leonard wants to run, I'm not saying he's going to run for 100 yards, but he's going to run for 30 or 40, and who knows when those 30 or 40 yards are going to come. Are they going to come if the game's tied 20-20 and he just keeps eating time off the clock and that 30 yards just got him in field goal range to win the game?
Right.
You never know. So Ohio State just has to make sure they keep him in contain and not allow Notre Dame's defense to run over you, because if they do, they could definitely make some points off of it.
Yeah. I mean, the time management is going to be a huge thing in this one, and that's why I think Notre Dame. If Notre Dame can keep the Ohio State offense off the field and just run the clock down and run it down and take 8, 9, 10-minute, drives, even though. If you only get 3 points out of it, you keep Ohio State's offense off the field. You keep chipping away at the clock. That's some of the reason why I think they have a chance of winning this thing. I do.
Yeah. I mean, we heard what Dylan had to say. Now's the fun part. Brandon, what do you think? Who's your pick? Who are you going with in this game?
I'll stick with my guns. Give me Notre Dame by 3. Notre Dame by 3.
I'm so glad you don't game.
Upset win.
God, dude.
Upset win over the Ohio State Buckeyes.
I was about to say, Brandon, I think we're on the same wavelength there. Give me Notre Dame.
God.
I think they, get the clock, run the clock. And I think it's a close game. I think could be 3, could be 7, anywhere in that range. I don't know if that's the 10-point margin that they're saying. I will have to say picking this, I'm a little partial to Notre Dame just because fun fact, my high school growing up had the Notre Dame fight song as our fight song in high school. So let's see the Irish cook here. We know what Dylan said. Ohio State by more than 10. So
yeah, I'm saying it's a 14-point win.
It's a 14.
100% calling it. It's a 14-point win. The fact that you guys just picked Notre Dame after Ohio State ran through Tennessee, which was the 7th-ranked team in the nation, the number one team in the nation, and Oregon, and then run through Texas. The fact that you guys can look me in the eye,
their luck's got to run out at some time.
Yeah,
you did it out of hate. 100%. You're a hater, Ohio State hater. You did it because you said you're partial to them because of that. I respect that. You did it out of hate.
Hey, as the former Ohio State head coach, it was a guy way long ago said it doesn't matter if you win a national championship if you don't beat Michigan. So
it doesn't matter when it all comes down to it. One team was a national championship, one team wasn't.
Well, and Brendan, how many times have they beat Michigan?
Once. We beat them in the last. We're 1-5 against them since Ryan Day has been there. So all right, 47-1 against all the other Big Ten teams. 1-5 against
1-5. It just makes no sense.
That'll all be erased if he can bring me a national championship. That's all.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Dylan, if Ohio State wins, will you paint your face for the reaction show?
I will not paint my face. I will not.
Just give me the
helmet. If Ohio State wins, I would say 50-50. 50-50 chance if Ohio State wins. 50-50. Yeah. I mean, they're going to win by 14 at least.
If Notre Dame wins, I will personally buy you a Notre Dame shirt that you have to wear on a show.
On a show.
Yes.
Okay. That stings. That stings.
I will send it to your house.
All right. It's probably going to be like another Tennessee game. That's all I'm saying.
We'll see. I think this game's gonna be closer than we all think it will be.
Well, you know what? You guys have all said that about every team that we played, and we've won by 14 every game. So I'm just saying. All right,
that's fair. That's fair. I mean, that's fair.
I even said it. All right, yeah. I thought every game was gonna be close.
Hey, the trend's got to stop somewhere. Y'all's luck has got to run out at some point.
Whoa. Who's calling it luck? Whoa. No one's calling it luck, all right? It's just called we're just better than you. We're better than everybody else, all right? That's what it is. You want to be an Ohio State fan come out, now it's coming out. We're just better than everybody. That's just the way it is. We're better than everybody right now, all right? We want better than them this year.
You can beat the teams from the South. You can beat the teams from the West.
Just can't beat Michigan.
You can't beat the teams from the Midwest, though.
Yeah, just can't win against Michigan. Just can't do it. I don't know why. Hey, all I can do is run the ball. We can't stop it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem. That's what I say. All you do is run the ball. You can't stop it. Game over.
Yeah, that's not happening though. We learned our lesson.
13-10 Notre Dame win.
We're scoring 10 points. All right. Okay.
Oh.
Yep.
So we should be in store for an exciting national championship game next Monday. Any final thoughts from you guys before we get out of here?
If we lose, I'm not getting on. If we lose, I'm not facing anybody. I'm not gonna be able to look either of you in the eye. I won't be able to do it. So,
hey, we'll see. I'm prepped for a fun game. With what we've seen with the schedule this year and some of these games, I think the closer we've seen some better games, and I'll be interested to see. Vegas for the most part, knows what they're talking about. They've got the line at 9.5. We'll see which way that rolls. We all know what Dylan thinks. You know, we might have to get out of here before we can't see his head on the screen because it's getting so big. So we'll be right back. We'll be back here on Monday to do a live reaction show, you know, and see, you know, if Dylan, if he's excited or just not facing anybody, not jumping on the show. So it's been a fun season, you guys, with, you know, just this college football season, the madness that happened throughout the season, some of the upsets we saw, the first year, the 12-team playoff. I can't wait to see, you know, what's the cherry on top? How does it end? Do we have a crazy game to kind of put the cap on the, you know, 2024 college football season? So, you know, with that, we'll get out of here, and, you know, we'll see you guys next Monday for and talk about the new national champion. So.